Alright, so we are going to do a quick review of Chapter 8, which was solving equations. So if you look at your assignment, the highlighted questions are the ones that we'll be going over in this short video. So starting off with number 1, we have a one-step style question. So we want to ask ourselves what is being done to x, and right now it's being multiplied by 3. So to undo that, we have to divide by 3 to both sides, which cancel off on this side, and then we have x equals 12 over 3, which can simplify down to x equals 4, which is our final answer. You want to try and leave your final answer as a fraction if the question starts with fractions, and as a decimal only if there's already decimals in the actual question. So, number 7, these are fractions, so our answer should be left as a fraction, so let's solve it. Right now we have x divided by 4 on the right hand side. So to undo that, we're going to multiply both sides by 4, which cancels that out. And the reason we choose 4 is to leave x by itself. So now we have 4 and 3 on the numerator, which means those are going to be multiplied together, divided by 5, and that all equals x. So now we basically just have to simplify it. And because it started as a fraction, we want to leave it as a fraction. So 4 times 3 is 12 over 5, and that cannot be simplified anymore. That's our final answer. If you divided it out, you'd get an answer of x equals 2.4, which is also correct, but get in the habit of leaving it as a fraction, as we talked about in class. Number 3, so here we have a, number 10, sorry. Here we have a addition and multiplication, which makes this kind of a two-step question. So first we want to get the m by itself. So we have to subtract 2 to both sides, which gives me 15 on the left side, and that's equal to 5m. And then now this is a simple division question. So we'll divide this by 5, divide by 5, and we get 3 is equal to m. Now we don't have to do this for every question, but just remember, if you want to do a quick check to see if you're getting these right, take your answer for m and then plug it back in. So we're going to go 17 equals 2 plus 5, and instead of m, we're going to put our answer 3. So 5 times 3. So 17 equals 2 plus 15, 17 equals 17, and because they both are the same on both sides, that means we got this correct. Now, I'm not requiring you do that for every single question, but for some of the easier ones, it's not a bad habit to get into. Alright, number 16, here's some fractions. So, to avoid having to use common denominators and equivalent fractions, we're just going to find basically what is the common factor between 4, 3, and 8, all of the denominators. So we have to find something that they all go into. So the answer is 24, which seems like a big number, but it's still going to make our life easier than if we actually had to find equivalent fractions. So I'm going to take 24 and multiply it by each one of these fractions. Okay, so we can simplify this a little bit. So 4 goes into 24 6 times, so now we have 6 times 3 over 4 minus 3 goes into 24 8 times, so then we have 8 times d, and that equals 3 times 3. And sorry, this was supposed to be gotten rid of in that last step. So all we did was multiply everything by 24 and simplify where it could be simplified. So 6 times 3 ends up being 18 minus 8d equals 9. Sorry for that confusion there. Now we have to try and get d by itself. So we're going to subtract 18 to this side, subtract 18 to that side, And so we're left with negative 8d is equal to negative 9. Last step, we'll divide by negative 8, cancels out, divide by negative 8, and then I get d equals 9 over 8. So because it started as a fraction, it's better to leave it as a fraction, but if we did want the decimal, it would be approximately 1.1. Alright, let's try one with brackets here. So number 19. So we have two options here, and I'll show you both of them. First one is to distribute. So that means we're taking this 3 and we're multiplying into both of the numbers inside the brackets. So that gives us 3d plus 12, and that equals 24. Now we simply try and get d by itself, subtract 12 to both sides. 3d equals 12. Divide by 3, and I get d equals 4. Now, the other way to do it, just as a quick refresher, because we can see that 3 goes into 24 right off the bat, we can actually divide this first. So I'll do this, and I'll get d plus 4 equals 12, and then my last step is minus 4 to both sides, and my apologies, 24 divided by 3 is actually 8. So now I get d equals 4. So we get this same thing. As you can see, sometimes the distributing makes a little more sense, but if both the factor on the left as well as the factor on the right, so in this case the 3 and the 24 are divisible, sometimes dividing first can be easier. Alright, let's try a slightly more complicated one here. So 24 on the assignment. So because there's decimals, there's multiple terms here, I'm not going to try and divide first, we're just going to distribute. Okay, so we're going to multiply that into there, that including the negative sign, into those brackets. So we get 4y minus 12 minus 2y minus 2, because these this negative sign is attached to this 2 here. Just don't forget that. And that equals negative 4.2. So now we're going to combine like terms. So we have all our y terms here. We have a 4y, a minus 2y, and then we have our constant terms, negative 12, negative 2. So we're going to combine those. So 4y and negative 2y make 2y, and negative 12 subtract 2 makes negative 14. And that equals negative 4.2. We're so close, so we're going to take 14 to the other side. That leaves us with 2y on the left side. And if we subtract those, we get 9.8. Divide both sides by 2, and y equals 4.9. So because we started with decimals in the question, like in the very original question, and there's no fractions, that means we should leave it as a decimal. So simplify it down to this final answer. Alright, let's try another one with decimals here. So we have, in this case though, we have variables on both sides. We have an a term on this side as well as an a term on the right hand side. So our first step is going to be to get the a's, or the variable terms, on the same side of the equation. So in this case, because there's only one term on this right hand side, I'm going to bring this 3.2 to the other side. So 7.52, I'm going to minus 3.2a to this side. And that gives me negative 9.4a. And my last step then is to divide, remembering to divide the negative sign to get a completely by itself. Divide 9.4 to that side, and I get negative 0.8 is the answer to what equals a. Alright, so 36, probably the toughest question we'll try today. Has some brackets, has some decimals, a couple different ways we can solve it, so let's just work through it slowly together. So first thing, because there's brackets on both sides, I think it's easier again if we just distribute right off the bat. So I'll multiply this into here, and then on the right side we'll multiply 0.9 into both those terms in the brackets. So I get 2.8 h plus 4.2 equals 2.7 h minus 1.8. Okay, in this case they were both positive, but just remember if there was a sign out here, that would also be distributed in. Okay, so now let's just organize this a little bit. So I have this h term on the left side, h term on the right side, and I have the constant on the left, constant on the right. So it doesn't really matter which side I take the variables to. So in this case, I would probably choose the left-hand side just to avoid having a negative. So I'm going to minus 2.7 h to both sides. And then I'm left with 0.1 h positive. Okay, and then I'm also going to then take the constant to the other side, minus 4.2 minus 4.2. So when I go negative 1.8 minus 4.2, I get exactly negative 6. So then our last step is to get h by itself. We'll divide by 0.1, divide by 0.1, that'll cancel, and we'll get h is equal to negative 60 as our final answer. So it worked out nice for this one. But if it wouldn't have, we would like to keep it to one decimal place. Remembering just to look at the original question to figure out how many decimal places we started with. Alright, let's try one problem together here. So we did a similar one to this in class, but just a reminder. So Messi and Neymar are the top scorers on their soccer team. One season, Messi scored 1/4 of the team's goals, and Neymar scored 1/6. Messi and Neymar scored a total of 50 goals. How many goals did the entire team score? So we first want to figure out what variable we're going to use. So you can use basically whatever you want. I'm going to say G, and that's going to equal the team's goals. We're trying to find out how many goals the entire team scored. So we're going to write both of the quantities we know in terms of this new variable G. So Messi scored 1/4 of the team's goals, so 1/4 times G. And Neymar scored 1/6 times G. And we know that Messi and Neymar together scored 50 goals. So Messi was 1/4 G, right, just from here. So Messi is 1/4 G, Neymar is 1/6 G. So I'm going to plug those in. So Messi 1/4 G plus Neymar 1/6 G has to equal the total goals, which was 50. So now we're just going to solve for G. A couple ways we can do it. Let's do it the way we had been doing by finding the common denominator. Sorry, not by finding the common denominator, by finding the lowest common multiple. So between 6 and 4, that's going to be 12. So I'm going to times everything by 12. And then we're going to simplify it. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. So I end up with 3G plus 12 divided by 6 is 2G equals nothing to divide here, so that'll give us 600. So that's a large number, but we'll see that it will make our life easier in the long run to do this. We'll combine these terms to 5G equals 600, and then we're so close. Just divide both sides by 5, divide by 5, and I get G equals 120. So this means, because of what we started at the very top, the entire team scored 120 goals. And there we go. So if you do have any more questions or specific concerns about the assignment, feel free to message me on the Remind, email me, let me know if there's any other ways we can give you some help. But we did do some of this in class, so hopefully it's a bit of a refresher, a bit of a review. Good luck as we start this first week of online learning. Thanks.